Welcome to the Better Ben podcast. I'm Corey Sandiford here with my co-host Luke. Not the most likable person in the world, but not a bad person to co-host a podcast with. You guys can find us now as well as on Instagram and on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you can listen to our audio while you work, while you cook, and on your way to and from spots in Barbados. Today, we have the pleasure of being in the studio with one of our newest senators to grace us with her presence for interview, Senator Goodridge, Karina Goodridge. Thanks for joining us, Senator. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I must say, these two young men, Corey and Luke, very nice individuals. So I am honored to be here celebrating with you the best of BIM.
Well, we are honored because the senator lets us know that interviews aren't necessarily something that she jumps into. So she doesn't grant them to any and every. So she's here with us today and we're pleased with that. Luke, before we came on here, we were getting to know the senator and we were talking about some of the background for her and what would have led her to this point. Also Friends of Democracy to this point.
Yeah, that's something that we're very interested in. And that's what we want to have a conversation about today.
Yes.
Just getting to know Senator Goodridge, like, who are you? How did Friends of Democracy come together? How do you become the leader of Friends of Democracy? And then obviously now your elevation to the Senate.
Yes, so thank you. And who I am an attorney. And that's why I like to be the person who's asking the questions. I like to be the one putting people on the spot. So apart from being an attorney, I am a musician.
Oh.
I am used to singing, songwriting. I used to be in a band, Gladiators. I came up in Richard South Teen Talent.
Hey.
I also was in Honey Jam. So I love music.
That's true.
Some of the music that people would have heard on the campaign trail, I was responsible for that.
You penned it?
So I am the writer of some of the songs that you would have heard. So that is me in a nutshell. And as you know, yes, I am the president of the Friends of Democracy, which is one of the newest political parties. And I became the president through nomination.
Mm-hmm.
So I was nominated and elected by the members of the Friends of Democracy to be the president.
And you were telling us before you came on air that wasn't necessarily the plan going in, that came about kind of after the fact, or you were at the initial party where it referred to in one way and now it's another thing. So you clarify for me.
Yes, because we were part of the Democratic Labour Party. We always had a chat called the Friends of Dem. And then, of course, a 9-member committee got together. I was like, we should continue. We should continue in politics. We should contest in the next general elections. Like, why not? Because some of us were, young people who are ambitious and we wanted a future in politics. So we didn't want to just give up because, we left the Democratic Labour Party, but we still wanted to serve Barbados and continue our mandate, which is to always be democratic and to always be the voice of the people.
You can tell us about the leaving Democratic Labour Party part, or you can tell us no comment?
Well, I would tell you that, shoulders were rubbed and we weren't happy. Yes, Mr. Tarn did come over and some of the younger folks, you would even see that the MP now, Tyra Trotman, she had left too. I remember many times when I spoke, she also spoke and we would be out there, speaking on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party. But after some of the members were locked out, we were like, oh no, we can't have that. And then, as you know, I was in Dr. Ronnie's shadow cabinet and he was expelled along with Mr. Stephen Blackett. And we had to stand up for something. It wasn't a great feeling. We for sure didn't like the confusion. It just felt like, oh no, not on our young political path.
Right.
We don't want this. We want to just have a clear slate. So when the members of Friends of Democracy had that idea to say, well, yes, let's go on with a clean slate and start something new, we were ready. As you see, Ms. Trotman, she went to a different party, but some of us remain. And Matthew Tarn, one of the candidates, he was one that was also in the shadow cabinet too. So we continue, no matter what.
I remember there's a picture somebody sent me with you and Dr. Yearwood and Tyra Trotman, and it's amazing to see those young people continuing on in politics and holding the feet to the fire and doing the work and now being able to end up one body as an MP, one body as a senator. I think that's
true.
fascinating. Yeah.
And
Wait, thank you.
You said that came together 7 months out from the election.
Oh, yes.
That's an interesting timeline. But now
Yes.
that you've had the election experience, and that wasn't originally the plan, like, talk to us about how the experience was for you now that is, behind us and Barbados moving on to a new phase and you in the
Yes,
Senate.
yes.
How was
Well, it was a lot of work. But I remember my first speech when I became the leader. I told them, I am a determined individual and I didn't want to disappoint people. So I decided that if I meant in my mind that I will make it into Parliament, I have to get there by doing the work.
Mhm.
Because even in campaigning and canvassing, I find that I reached a lot of people who had experienced a lot of disappointment with some of the representatives. So I really wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be, I guess, like Michael Jackson said, be the change of the world.
Mm.
So I felt like I had to do something different. I had to push harder, work harder, and also strategize.
Mhm.
Yeah, I take my hat off to you because it's not in the political landscape, especially for older people in Barbados, they only see it as very much a two-party state.
Yes.
So then to create a third party, even if it is a splinter group, but what I do appreciate about y'all is that you didn't start off saying we are a splinter group for the Dems. Like I only
Correct.
picked that up in the media halfway, and I was like, how true is this? But if the
Mhm.
newspaper is reporting it, then it must be true. And
Yes.
you started. I mean, hey, I was like, this is such a touchy time. I don't think anybody would want to say this is a splinter group of
And it not be
this
true.
party and it not be true. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you're risking getting sued and,
Yes,
Friends of
yes.
Democracy collecting a bounty to fund the campaign trail. But so I found that was very interesting and that you were willing to throw your hat in the ring, especially as young people, especially as
Yes.
what seemed really and truly like a coalition of young people who really wanted to take things forward. And
Correct.
it didn't necessarily just like opposition for opposition's sake, but
Exactly.
in the manifesto, it laid out clearly the things that you wanted to do, the changes that you wanted to see, and the way that
yes.
you wanted to bring things forward.
Yeah, because some of them would actually think that we just wanted to get back at Ralph, and that wasn't true.
Mhm.
But not for me, for sure, because, I speak on behalf of myself.
Yeah.
And if some people really felt that way, well, I'm like, well, everybody thinks different. So you go, do what you got to do. But I know what I was doing. And it wasn't just to get back at Mr. Tarn at all.
All right, we have to put that out there, Senator. So, like, on my mind is like, I put in myself in the mind of a voter, PCP, UPP, NNP,
NNP.
CBLP,
Yeah.
and now FOD. Like,
FOD.
how
Yeah.
as a new party, because I try not to say small parties, as that's something that we say a lot in
Yes.
Barbados, but I try not to say that because I want to give everybody the due. As a new party, how do you get the name out there? You have a rare opportunity now. You're in the Senate. And it does not happen every day where we get a senator who is from one of the newer parties in Barbados.
Yes,
Last time we
yes.
had this kind of presence in Parliament at all was, as if memory serves me correctly, Dr. Richie Haynes being elected to the lower house. So now you're in the Senate. Now you're Senator
Yes.
Goodridge. Like, what is Friends of Democracy, and how do you differentiate that now from the litany of small parties out there? Do you want to differentiate, or do you want to join forces?
Well, to be honest, we already have our name out there. And with the fact that I am a senator now, we are more recognized, I would say, in comparison to some of the other parties.
Mhm.
And I would say that to get our name out there, it's a number of factors we would have had to consider. And, wisdom is the principal thing. You have to use wisdom because, as I said earlier, you need strategy.
Mhm.
Politics is strategy. You have to really, connect with people. And as a friend of mine say, you have to walk off your shoes. So when you go door to door, it's not just that you're going door to door just for no fun walk. You have to go connect with people. When people get to know you, that is you spreading the word about your party. That is you allowing people to know who you are as an individual. And also, you're allowing them to know what are your plans for Barbados? Like, what is in your manifesto? what is behind the scenes in the meetings. What are you cooking up in those rooms when you say you want to help Barbados? What could you do for Barbados? And when people see that you are different and that you come with a unique plan and that you are focused on the betterment of the people and not just the power and being in the game, I think that helps you to be recognized more. Because the thing is, in Barbados, a lot of people believe that third parties or new parties do not push hard enough. And some of them, we can say, do not get enough push either. But you have to be aggressive if you want to be in politics. And I think that is why Friends of Democracy went so hard with the social media to push, because we recognize that the Nation News would only do so much and Starcom could only do so much. Barbados Today could only do so much. But we have the power also to do as much as we could to get our name out there.
So like, I not go overdo the numbers because I know how they could be for viewers and for listeners, but I want to put some perspective to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
69, 28, and 3. Those are by percentage in terms of the overall vote in Barbados. BLP 69, DLP 28%, and then the all of the newer parties together, total 3%. And that's how it's been between 2018 and now. You get 5%, 4%, 3% total between those parties. So I'm wanting to know, just for context, the same Dr. Haynes, he at the height of popularity, I guess we could say, of newer parties in Barbados, got 11% of the vote in 1994. He got 1 seat. So like, what's the long game? What's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan for you and for our Friends of Democracy, especially if things don't go your way in terms of how the elections might turn for the rest of your team?
But to tell you the truth, let me start by saying that we really want to change that Bajan mentality that is only a 2-party system here, where they feel as though they only have to alternate between those 2 parties and they don't have another option. And to be honest, we are a young party, so I don't know if I could rightfully say that they should trust us wholeheartedly because they are still examining us, just like they would have done with some of the other fresh and new parties. And I don't know how much work they've put in to get those percentages, but the word on the street is that some third parties had only emerged just before elections. And then Barbadians will really say then, we didn't get to see you in the community.
That's right.
We didn't get to meet those representatives. We don't know you. So then how could we trust you to give you the vote? Well, the mass parties now planning, putting strategies in place already on the ground. Then, of course, they would get more footage. They would get
spending monies that we as voters don't like to think about.
Oh, yes. And they would get the backing from the financial places that would decide to sponsor them.
As legacy parties.
Exactly. So they would always have that upper hand to get those high percentages, the higher percentages. I mean, kudos to Mr. Haynes, who would have gotten that 11%. And then it was only him that got to that place. But who knows, maybe he has spent a lot of time in his constituency. Maybe over time, he really focused on his constituency a lot. Because as you build relationships then with people and you spend more time in the community, then the chances are greater for you then to be elected to serve in Parliament.
But Luke, I want to rope you into the convo from the social media angle because you're a social media man, digital strategist like you. So, like, what is the long game, or what do you see out there from Friends of Democracy first thing in terms of the social media presence? And then what do you see in terms of political parties, big picture, in terms of, I've heard this complaint commonly. We have Senator here talking to us about engaging in the communities from this perspective of young people looking for engagement on social media. What would you see from the party's big picture in terms of engagement between elections, and what do you want to see from Friends of Democracy?
In regards to social media, the digital strategy, especially in a post-COVID world now, is like, it's less that people look towards traditional media and everybody's on the phone, everybody has a tablet, everybody has a smartphone that they want to connect, they're on TikTok, They're on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. They want to see what's happening, want to know what's going on. So social media is the best domain for a younger party to get into, because that's ultimately where the people are. And just like you said, like, yes, you could argue with a nation of Barbados today that, like, you give BLP 1,000 words, you get the LP 800, and you only gain with 3. You only gain with 4. We had an article jot down the back of somewhere. But it's like, you ultimately won't be able to control that, because how often you can go and fight up with nation and Barbados today every day for that. Start come by, I ain't hearing you ain't get me on a program, you ain't invite me on. It's like, whereas with social media, it kind of democratizes the entire process. So now you're able now to come in and say,
if you know how to use it.
And that's the tricky part. I think once you have a good digital strategist, you should be able to say, okay, this is what we need to do. But it needs to, social media has its ups and its downs like everything else. So you can't just rely on that alone. It needs to work in tandem, just as you say, with the work within the community. Like, you need to go and slap the tar and shake the hands and do the door to door, do the set. Because in as much as you are appealing to younger voters, all people are on social media now.
True.
You still have those traditional voters who want to see the setup. Yes, want to see you in person, want to see you doing a political rally, want to come out, want to hear you. You got the people that say, you ain't doing a rally, I ain't got to sell nothing. You ain't doing a rally, I ain't got to go down there. You know, I want to see it. The lights, the fanfare, all of that type of stuff. And would not see you doing the rally and say they ain't got no money, I can't take them seriously. And all that type of stuff. Yeah. So it's like, it really is, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of tactics that you have to put into play, but social media is a key part, and I think that's a good step for a younger party to make.
I agree.
Yeah. Your thoughts on social media, Senator?
But I love social media, but
your use and the parties.
Yes, because I believe that using social media could reach a wide range of people very quickly. And I have learned from walking can be very tiring.
Yes.
And, you know, even though I have walked, I did meet people on the trail, which would have said, look, as much and as hard as we were pushing on social media, they still didn't hear about Friends of Democracy.
Yes.
So to my surprise, I recognize walking, as you were saying about a plan, you have to put canvassing as a top priority in the plan. You have to make sure you touch the flesh of people and have people see you on the front step. You have to be on the front step.
Yeah, you must be, because like in my constituency rap, he appeared. It shocked me. But then on the opposite side, the other guy didn't appear. Nobody else from any other party appeared. So then it's like
you couldn't but say,
I'm shocked, you know. But in as small as that is, that makes a difference, because my rap doesn't have a good social media presence. But the fact that he appeared is like, damn, you know, it's like he showed up. So
after election call?
No, he after election call. I would give you that. He fixed the road out there. So
but one thing is key that you have to learn from the use of social media. You might get fans, but you may not get voters.
That's true.
There's like,
right?
I've seen popular people, thousands of social media followers, like tens of thousands, through a cruise, struggling to sell tickets, and it's amazing.
True.
If fighting selling tickets and votes,
and the selling tickets and votes, but you saying you love me, you commenting on your videos, I could get 10,000 likes if I put up a picture. But the minute I say buy a ticket to my cruise for $50, and then it's radio silence, and that's just a cruise. It's different when it's like I might have 10,000 followers, but they're scattered all across Barbados.
Yeah.
So they're not centralized. They're not coalesce within my constituency. So then you can't vote for, you might love me,
correct,
show up, or everything, but you may not come out to help me canvass.
Exactly.
And you're not in my constituency to vote for me.
Exactly.
I mean, you gotta be able to, at the end of the day, convert that social media presence into, I can actually go to the polls on there and maybe do something that I know custom doing.
Yeah.
Because now, as newer parties will want to be converting support for people that don't necessarily usually even vote, as opposed to just looking to pull from the quote-unquote legacy parties. So I can be devil's advocate for a minute. On the one side, the cynical side, the practical side, I've heard newer parties in two-party systems, not just Barbados, referred to as nuisance parties, quote-unquote. On the flip side of that, I heard, I was next to Professor Marshall on election night, and he was saying having newer parties showing up in Barbados and elsewhere is a healthy expression of democracy, because it is other minds that are present in the democracy and they're wanting to put themselves out there, not only as an option for elections, but also as an alternative thought to what exists out there with the quote unquote, the two parties, don't let me say quote unquote, the two parties, the two major parties, you're having other thoughts out there that are wanting to manifest themselves in elective politics and for causes and other ways. So that is the practical versus the theory.
Yes.
So if the argument is that smaller parties are nuisance parties, I call them smaller parties, newer parties are nuisance parties, like, would they be better off all of the newer parties banding together,
Coming together,
and getting out there, and instead of trying to split the vote between them? Devil's advocate, remember.
I mean, I do agree. You know, if unity is power, so if some parties could come together under one banner, it actually is not a bad idea. But I do know that internally, sometimes with these things,
Egos.
conflict does happen. So I would say, first of all, any person who wants to enter such a relationship, you need to have the meetings to ensure that, you know, somehow there could be a plan where most people, if not all, feel as though the mission could be accomplished and the mass party that they're trying to overthrow can be overthrown, and they keep their mind on the target and band together and not just come together and then divide and then become the one that could easily disappear because of some kind of internal conflict.
And I mean, we living in a time now where we have leaders casting long shadows over their own parties, one way or the other. I mean, whether good or bad. So now that you are in the Senate, how do you stop that from happening? Where people might know, two things can happen. They might know Senator Karina Goodridge, right? And they might like you, but then they compare you to the Prime Minister unfavorably, and then that is disadvantageous for your overall, for your party overall. Or they might like you in the constituency, but for one reason or the other, the candidates that are presented are the race becomes unfavorable for you, and then it does not translate overall into what you're trying to get accomplished for yourself or for your party. Like, how would you know not stop, because you can use it to your advantage. How do you, in light of that possible reality, how do you spin that in your favor?
Yeah, well, first of all, you did mention if they compare me with the Prime Minister.
As a woman.
We could start there. As a woman, to even be in her league, I would see that honestly as a compliment, because she didn't just emerge there. It took a lot of experience in politics and a lot of hard work.
Yes.
And I've always heard, and I believe this is true, that women have to work harder in politics to become leaders.
That is true.
So I wouldn't pressure myself too much if someone say, oh, in comparison with the Prime Minister, you're not, walking in her shoes, because I walk in my own shoes, and I know that in time, in practice, and in learning and in watching, then eventually, if I am to reach to a level of, of such a level, should I say, then I will have to put in the work to get there. Because as I said, it's a young party. Me now, as a fresh face, I now have to get to that level where I have so much experience coming under my belt that then you have to put more respect to my name then. You have to recognize, well, yes, Karina is putting in the work.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote from, what was that show, Scandal? You have to work twice as hard to get half. So women in politics, it always feels like there's that, for want of a better word, that glass ceiling. Like, you always have to push through. Like, what people will respect in a male politician doing something, they will not respect in a female politician.
Exactly.
A male would be assertive and dominant, he's commanding. With a female, she's a despot, she's difficult, she's hard, she's arrogant, all that type of stuff.
She here.
Yeah, so
I was saying brawling.
Exactly. She's too much. She on the campaign and she talking up a storm, and it's they expect certain things that doesn't always work out. But I do believe it's really good to see not just women in politics, but women leading parties and women being able to have a say. And then also in terms of the makeup of the Senate, they're having more female politicians involved
Yes.
because they think that is the best thing for our democracy. It sets a good example for Generation Alpha, all those younger people coming up. I would even say Gen Z, millennials too as well, that
Yes.
this is the standard that we have been set, and it's not an anomaly in terms of a female prime minister, that this is the standard that we should become accustomed to, and that we should be working towards gender parity in all forms of government, in our across our entire society, especially as a matrifocal society.
So
Yes.
I saw your Instagram post capturing the moment of your Senate pick, if we could call it that, saying keep the bees in check is not just a campaign slogan. But if that is so, how is that? Like, pretend me and Motley and the BLP don't exist for a minute. Like, what are your politics? You know, and I further to that question, I want to put an argument to you. If when you market your party, you say keep the bees in check. Do you not, in so doing, I could present an argument that you're keeping the BLP in the minds of the voters? So every time you think about FOD, you're thinking about the BLP as well. But anyhow, that's my two-part
Yes.
question to you. What are your
Okay.
politics, and are you also advertising for the BLP by using that slogan?
Yeah, okay. But just look at one event that the Barbados Labour Party would hold.
Mhm.
And you will realize that nothing that we do can help put the BLP in the minds of the people. The BLP is already in the minds of the people.
Mhm.
And that is why I keep saying we know the climate that we were in when we said keep the bees in check. Because there were some Barbadians that kept saying, hey, we need an opposition. And we realized that in Barbados, there was need for accountability, transparency, and there needs to be proper oversight. If decisions are being made, we recognize we need opposition that will be serious and stand up for the people and say no. Because already the BLP had 30 love more than once.
Mhm.
So already that is enough that
Not
probably
once, not
every
twice.
Barbadian already know that the Barbados Labour Party won the election more than once.
Yeah.
And then just again, February 11th, again.
Mhm.
So they are already in the people's mind. No advertising coming from us was needed at all.
Mhm. Well,
Fair point. Very good point. I can't argue with that.
well, you had your first sitting of the Senate now in the rearview mirror, correct? I
Yes.
wanted to know how it lived up. Not so much how it lived up. Sorry, let me rewind that. I wanted to know how your imagination of what it would be like compared with the reality, having done it once.
Well, I can tell you, it was actually an interesting feeling. The reality was different to what was, in my mind in a sense, because in my mind, it's like, I didn't know that I would be a senator.
Mhm.
So I didn't have to imagine a lot. Like, oh, did I imagine that I would be a senator? I imagined only in my head that I would do great things. And at some point in time, I would give greater service and would continue to give great service. So being there, it just felt like, wow, I'm grateful to be here. I just want to ensure that I look out for every citizen in the country and whatever I could do in my capacity to just ensure that ensure that there's good balance. Because it's not every time that you have to speak about a bill or something that the Barbados Labour Party does that you have to oppose.
Right.
It may come with some good ideas that you may stand and say, well, that is a good idea on behalf of the citizens in Barbados. So that is why I say keep balance too. So I was just, grateful to be chosen to actually, exemplify my skills and show people, well, I'm not just talking, I'm here to represent.
I'm curious about, this is a bit more of an informal question. Like, how was it on the first day of Parliament? Because I was a big to-do man, and seeing you arrive at Parliament for the first time. And then how was it on your first day in the Senate? Because obviously there are rules and procedures. And they say that the president said that there'll be people there to help you, to make sure you say the right thing. You say you have to speak to the president, the Senate, all that type of stuff.
Yes. Well, I think that comes with practice.
Yes.
I still have to go through a lot of rules and standing orders.
Right, standing orders.
So I would say probably they went easy on the newbies like myself, but there is a lot to learn. So it's like I just newly got baptized in the Senate.
Yes.
So you don't just
Baptism of fire.
yes. You don't just emerge at the top. I am willing to learn as much as I could in a quick time, And, as they say, you start off slow, but you end off hot. So I plan to keep the fire burning.
Was you? Well, you got me question in mind because I want to know what passion, what fire can Barbadians expect you to bring for the next 4 years? Let's say based on how things been going, what fire particular types of perspective can Barbadians expect from you in the Senate?
Yes, well, I can tell you, they would see a person who have honesty and boldness. I am always fierce. I will bring some aggression respectfully. So they could look out for that and they would see my authenticity because I am authentic. When I walked up Parliament steps, I say, I am walking up Parliament steps with imagining to be nobody else but Karina. So I will be myself and I will always remember, I cannot forget the people who would have supported me and pushed me and encouraged me and actually gave me some publicity while I was, just there as an unknown. And some people may know me from being an attorney, but unknown really to be in politics to that level. So I want to personally thank them and say that encouragement is going to push me to be even more bold and feel more relaxed when I have to address the nation.
Any like reference to your team, your party team, going forward? Like, are you still having your meetings? Any reference to them? Because you're now in the Senate, we seeing you, but what will be going on with the rest of the party in the background?
Yes, for sure. I believe that the team is fully on board. We had our first meeting. It was last week. Yes, we had a meeting. Or was it this week? Yes. Well, we had a meeting so far. And in that meeting, for sure, the candidates are still on board. We have candidates that are very much still with us and are interested in a political future. And we didn't just enter the election just to say we win. We know that we win, whether we win or lose, should I say. But we know that we wanted to build capacity and continue to build a political party. And there's so many other things that we are going to do within this time. Being in the community is one. And then number two, we want to plan a lot of events. We have our annual conference that will come up in March. So we still have party business to deal with, for the party and for the progress of the party. We definitely want to keep pushing. We don't want to just die down as a party and be forgotten in the minds of the people. We will continue working.
Yeah, because a lot of people do see Friends of Democracy. Like, we had another guest. He was saying political landscapes constantly change. So what we've had in Barbados with two parties, like, is kind of an anomaly. So we should expect political landscapes to change. So I wonder, do you see the possibility of Friends of Democracy, if not, I guess, replacing the DLP, if not becoming second, eventually becoming the government?
You see that question? After I wanted to ask, I had it in my head, but I said, no, I ain't bringing out the DLP supporters out the woodwork on social media.
I'm curious.
So they're
Go for it, curious in the way that you see the evolution of the party. He said 4 years. I want to know, like, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, the BLP is not going to be in power forever.
Yes. Well, you asked me that question, no, but that would depend on how we capitalize on our yearly plan. So say our yearly plan is to find 30 candidates now. Then we would know what will happen after the year has passed. Because then we'll be able to judge, okay, if we find 30 candidates now and we show the country that we are serious. Because, in Barbados, once we get 30 candidates, they already say, oh, they're looking now like they could be the government.
Don't always happen.
Looking now,
They got 12 now, the building.
Working with a full card,
Yes, exactly.
Card, yeah.
And you need people in politics. So if we could build from there and we could, all the goals that we have now to say, well, are we able to take over the DLP or any other party? Then we will have to know, well, based on our plans, based on feedback, this could happen. Because I tell you, I've said it before, the political analysts know We cannot do guessing games in politics. You'll make yourself shame.
Yes.
True.
You have to go by the data and the feedback from the nation. Sometimes you have to do surveys. Sometimes you have to do polls. We can't just sit down here fancy and say, yeah, boy, Pinky and the Brain series.
Yeah.
We can't take over the world. And you're just exploding everything, but you ain't getting away. No.
Don't ever be
You have to be serious.
I hope, Senator, that you would never become one of them politicians that would be reasoning. That's not what I'm hearing on the ground. That's not what people tell me. I find that that's unfortunately a cancer for politicians to have that type of thinking. You can never assume what is going on out there.
Correct.
Almost anytime I work in research, and I could tell you that anytime a client comes to you and they're assuming one thing, that when you actually do the research, it shows something else. It
Yes.
always surprises. You
Exactly.
can never know what exists out there without the same changing landscape that you talked to. So you can't assume that because it was this way in January 2026 that it'd be the same way 2 years from now. So,
Exactly. And you can't just say, oh, yes, it could be the government in that same. And then the next minute you see 30-0 again.
Exactly. You're confused.
Because you know what? You don't want to follow the data.
that keeps happening. That keeps
We
happening.
can't live in a dream world. We could dream, but just don't stay in the dream world and then don't put things in place to accomplish that dream goal.
Well, I want to know what's our social media firestorm you're trying to create.
No, I'm just
With
curious.
the LP supporters coming out the woodwork.
You're really curious. It's not every day you get a conversation with the Friends of Democracy. So it's like, what are they seeing? How do they see themselves? Where are we looking to go 5 years, 10 years, 15 years into the future? Like, I guess it is an exciting time for people who are viewing the political landscape of Barbados and seeing these changes, seeing the president's letter, seeing your inclusion in the Senate, the shock and awe of it, getting people excited, as a younger face in the Senate. She's from a different party, it's not the two parties fighting anymore, it's something new,
Right, but wondering too, still in the mind of the voter, wondering too, will FOD be here 5 years, 10 years from now?
Right, exactly.
Will it be 10 years from now? Will it be another set of newer parties whose names that I gotta get accustomed to and I gotta try not to confuse, and then they're gonna be forming a coalition on the eve of the election and I gotta get used to that new name too. So I, for one, am wishing FOD yourself, Senator, well as y'all go forward, but I hope that at all times y'all are keeping in perspective the task at hand.
Oh, yes.
And I will presume too that at the same annual meeting that you referred to in March, you'll be planning your community activities, the community cleanups,
for sure,
fish fries,
just community stuff. Yeah, that is a good way to keep a presence within the community, and at least the shaking the hands, rubbing the flesh, the rubbing the shoulders, that type of thing.
Gotta wait till election time, right?
Exactly. Don't wait.
I am curious, so I guess this will be my final question.
Yes.
How was it in the Senate yesterday? I know the votes, it was 15 yeses, 3 no's, and 2 abstentions. How was that? Obviously, you voted no, but how was that? Did you expect the bill to pass? Did you expect it to fail? What were you surprised at the result? How did it work out?
Well, to be honest, I felt as though the majority would have, voted in favor of it.
I was surprised. I thought the independent senators would have banded with the opposition senators and the bill would have failed. I was shocked to see the 15.
That's a conversation.
There's a conversation.
That's very senator.
I'm interested in the senators' experience.
That's my inner feeling because I'm a woman of, spiritual. So as a child of God, let me make that clear. Sometimes you go with your spirit and you just say, okay, but I feel in my spirit that, most people may vote for it because even on the campaign trail, a lot of people were saying they don't like how, some ministers have crossed the floor. So most people I know would say, well, they don't like the crossing of the floor. But of course, when people also don't like if you meddle with the Constitution. A lot of people really just want a republic constitution. And I've heard on the ground some people saying they don't like when you nitpick at it. Just come with it one time.
You piece.
So it really was an interesting discussion. And of course, the bill was passed. So regardless, we have to go with it because it has passed.
Yeah, I thought it would have failed because what I call the Coffee Water bill failed for that same reason. The independent senators said we don't like you piecing the Constitution.
Yeah.
All of these amendments should fall under the Republican Constitution. It shouldn't be a patchwork quilt of a constitution where you do this amendment here, you do that amendment there, you do that, and there's constant things.
Just do it one time.
Just do it one time in the new constitution and call that Wally. So I thought that's why it would have failed. It was to my shock that the independent senators agreed with these tinkering constantly with the Constitution.
But he said a quotation like when they said Shakespeare had this quote when he said, "There's nothing good or there's nothing bad. It's the thinking that makes it so." So one person's perception of, what they're looking at is so different to somebody else's perception. So while some people might be like, "Oh, we don't like this bill," there are other people that like, we like it. We're comfortable with it. So you see, that's why judges exist. So that somebody could rule in the end.
Somebody could rule and make a decision.
A final decision.
And just for our knowledge, Senator, you opposed it as a representation of what you felt is out there in terms of the will of the people or what people want, or was it personal politics for you, or a combination of both?
Well, I would say it as an attorney, in looking at any bill, any piece of legislation, I don't want to say it was just my personal opinion, because I did look at the will of the people, the public interest. All of that was in my head. And I know that the Bar Association did send out a release.
Just going to come out and say that.
Right.
The Bar Association sent out the
But
release.
as a lawyer, there's something in me as a lawyer that if I see a bill or a piece of legislation that I feel that, it could do with some work, just so to ensure that everybody's comfortable with it, I will say then, delay till such further time. So that is why I really said no, because of, as a lawyer, what I saw could be made better. I put that very briefly. But based on what I know could be better and what could be amended to make it better, then I say, well, no. Yeah, it's not that I'm so much against anti-defection laws, because I know that some countries fully support it. As the Prime Minister has said, over 40 countries have it. But then you still have some countries like UK that don't have it. And they don't have it for their reasons. Some of them were parliamentary independence. Some of them want to ensure that debates, don't affect the conscience of any parliamentarian. And they don't want to mess with parliamentary tenor. So they say, we'll leave it as it is. We will set other rules and so on. But Barbados is different. Barbados want to be innovative at this time and have new legislation. So they pushed for that and it was passed.
Yes, because the Bar Association refer to the Latimer rules as well too?
The Bar Association, I'm not too sure.
I can't remember. That's what I'm trying. But I know that there were people objecting online who referred to those rules. I can't remember where those came from.
You mean in the press release?
Yes.
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember either. But I know I saw commentators online refer to those rules and saying that the government should have also taken those rules into consideration. I can't remember where the Latimer rules came out from. It was from somewhere, but it was just for listeners and for viewers.
Yeah.
It's just a set of rules identifying why there shouldn't be that anti-defection legislation that's particularly onerous, similar to what you said, that parliamentary representatives don't have to fear that they will be expelled from the party, triggering a by-election, don't fear that they will be punished, that this type of power and this type of anti-defection legislation concentrates power into the Prime Minister's hands and the party leader, and it doesn't allow for freedom of movement. That anytime that somebody crosses the floor and the electorate doesn't like it, particularly the people in the constituency, it is reflected in the next general election.
Yes.
So that it generally should be left alone and allowed because the people will ultimately always make the decision.
Exactly. But as I told you, there are arguments for it and there are arguments against.
Yes.
And I only actually got that copy of it released when it was sitting in Parliament. So I did get it late.
Yeah.
But yes, so arguments for, against, and then the final decision is made by the votes.
Yeah, so it was...
here we are.
Yes, and here we are with, I guess, another constitutional amendment. I guess we'll see how it is when the final Republican Constitution is.
Oh yeah.
What this particular sequence of events says about the trajectory for politics in Barbados. Interesting indeed.
Correct. But I'm glad that you as young people actually follow what is going on in politics. I want to meet a lot more young people who have a great interest in politics.
Well,
Funny enough, we wanted this program, and the entire Better Bin from the start was a way to coalesce the thoughts of young people, because obviously you're seeing disparate things online. People talk in the comment section, and that comment section is done, that's disappeared. If you don't see that day, the way that social media moves, you might not ever see it again. So these disparate conversations happen and then are lost. So we wanted to be able to have a place to centralize these type of words that people could come and have these discussions and be informed, and have somebody to point out things to them like, okay, this is this, and this is happens because of this, and this is why this occurs, and this is our parliamentary system, this is our voting system, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So because that youth vote, I think it wasn't in this election, but 2022, 2018 was the swing vote. People arguing with me that it wasn't a swing vote, but the youth carry enough weight that depending on which direction they go in, they could completely swing an entire election. They could have swung this one depending on how they voted, given that
any election,
given that 60% of people didn't vote. So when I had to point out to a 25-year-old friend of mine, he was shocked.
The 18 to 30s are always the most fickle voting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I really got to thank the senator for coming and joining us and adding to our political engagement, because you are complimenting us, but at the end of the day, you are contributing to that by having this conversation with us, giving a deeper understanding. And, you know, we would have wanted to have you here and bring you over in a way that is relatable for people who follow our videos and watch our clips on Instagram and so on, to get to know you better, get to know your politics better, to get to know your plans for the future and those of your party.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Such a pleasure. Had a really nice time with you.
No, it was fantastic. Yeah, we want to have this before the election, but I think now with you as a senator is infinitely more interesting.
So true.
See our politics.
Yeah.
See, you know, I kind of the trajectory for the future. We may come back a year, 2 years from now and have a conversation, see how you've grown, see how it's been in the Senate.
Why wait so long?
True, why wait so long?
About 6 months. I really think I can like you that long. Here saying no next to you.
These conversations again, because it is good. Yeah. It's good to see young people in the Senate too as well. And I think that invigorates the interest, has that political interest for young people to see. She's a young person like me. What is she saying? What is she doing? She's somebody new. She's not a government stalwart, you know, where it would she be thinking like how I think, you know, are there voices in the Senate that represent my interests?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they could be rest assured I will represent
that's fantastic.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. Another Better BIM episode done and dusted with Senator Karina Goodridge. And don't forget, you can find all of our short form content on Instagram, our long form content on YouTube, and now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So that was a wrap. That was quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we had a nice, smooth flowing.
Yeah, it flowed well, very, very well.